So those of you that follow my channel know that this is my second workshop now. I still have the small one at home, but ultimately this larger space allows me to work on bigger machines like this longer mill behind me. Now the problem is it is looking a little bit dull and lacking a bit of inspiration to get down here. So we're going to try and change that today. Now I started thinking about things that I like and YouTubers that I follow. Matt Essler was one of the first people who really inspired me not only to get into woodworking but also starting to do YouTube. And he has this OSB army thing where he often uses OSB in the backdrops. So I'm going to go down that theme as I have some left over from the workbench build. Now what we're going to do is get this mounted up onto the wall, but I want to do something a bit different. So we're going to try and cut pieces out of it and have them mounted at different depths. Now ultimately what this means is when I run lighting behind it, it should allow that lighting to come through and shine through the different depths. I don't know if it's going to look good. I haven't mocked anything up. I haven't even drawn out any plans, but let's crack on and see how it goes. Now one of the first things I need to do is actually check that I can mount onto these walls. Obviously there are some power sockets along the bottom and chances are there will be electrical cabling running vertically above those. So I need to check where that cabling is, but also this wall on the other side is the main power grid for the entire factory. So I need to be careful that I don't go too far into the wall. We're going to use a stud detector just to find where the cables are. These are fairly simple. You normally put them in a blank spot. Press a button to calibrate it. It'll take a few seconds just to count down and then you can drag it across the wall and it should highlight where any cables are. There we can see, you can hear that. So we know there is definitely a power cable running there. I'll do it on the rest of the walls just to be safe. So I've deliberately darkened the exposure down on the camera to highlight the next stage. So obviously I know where the cables are. I now need to mark up where I want the batons to be mounted to put the board against. And we're using a laser level to do this. These are fairly cheap again, but what we can see is it gives us a nice horizontal line in order to mount the batons against the wall. So I'm going to work around now, set this to the correct height and put a line where I need everything to sit. So what I've done is put two marks on the wall. The first is where I know the board needs to be, and then the one is a little bit lower where the baton needs to be. And what we can do then is measure from that down to where the second baton needs to be on the bottom. So I've moved the sheets of OSB out the way now, and I've just got some rough sawn batons. This is 45mm by 45mm, so 1 3/4 inch batons. We're going to put these against the wall, mark some spots to drill them, and then obviously drill the wood, drill the wall, and get them mounted to the wall. So the wall has been marked up and drilled on both sides. We've also marked up the wood as well to put centre holes down there. I'm about to move on and get all those drilled. So as you can see, the top rail is now in place. I'm happy with the height of it and all is secure. So I literally just need to repeat the same process a bit lower down so the bottom of the board can also be fixed on as well. And just like that, the second baton is now in place, ready for the bottom of the board. The next stage is cutting the boards up into the angles or the slices that I want. Now, because I haven't planned this, I am making it up on the spot. What I'm probably going to do is have exactly the same pattern on either side. I don't know if I want the angles to flow around or whether I want them to come into the centre at the back corner. Let's figure it out. So I think I've figured this out. It's going to look something like this. We're going to have two strips cut that are around 7 inches wide. The first one will be 1 foot in from one end and 3 foot in from the other end, and the same on the opposite side. These will be mounted slightly higher, and that should allow the light to be able to seep out either side of them and just add a bit of depth to the backdrop. So the next stage is to get these cuts done. Now I could cut both boards together, but I'm going to do one first just in case there's a mistake. I'd rather only ruin one piece of wood than two. One thing I should mention, obviously depending on the saw you are using, will determine on what side you want to be the good or bad on the wood. Now I'm using this Ryobi circular saw. This cuts up from the front, so effectively the top surface is likely to have the most chip out. So the bottom surface is the better surface, and that's why it's facing downwards. So I want to get these two cuts now and then move on to the two behind me. I will just quickly apologise for those last couple of scenes. Now normally I do wear safety glasses whenever I'm using the saw. I just didn't pack any today, so I do apologise for those that pick up on that type of thing. But all the parts are cut. The edges have been lightly sanded. Obviously OSB can be nasty and give big splinters, so do make sure you clean it up when cutting through that material. Now what I've done is put the laser level back up so I know where the centre of the wood is. I've also marked with some blue tape above the rail itself so I know exactly where the screws are, so I'm not going to hit those. The next step is I'm going to take a piece of wood on each piece, just clamp it on the back of it. So basically I can hang it on there, get it in the right position before screwing it into place. So I'll move on and get that done now. So you can now see what I was talking about. This is going to hold it in position while I can get a couple of screws in to obviously fix it to the wall. It is slightly proud because of the depths of the clamps, but once I get a hole and a screw in there, I can take all that off to sit it flush. So slowly it is coming together. The next parts I've got to get done are obviously the slithers that go in between these slots. Now these are going to be mounted slightly off the wall because I want the light to seat behind them. So what I'm going to do is cut some thin strips to basically mount this a little bit further out than the actual original OSB board, and then we're going to get those mounted as well. So hopefully you can start seeing my idea coming together now. Now obviously these hold the boards off, and when it's mounted it's like that. So when we drape the LED lights down the inside of these beams, it should allow light out the outside as well as on the top and on the bottom. So we've got one fixed in place. I'm going to get the other three done now. So that is most of the hard work done. The last step really is just to get all of the LED lights in place. Now I have two sets of 20-meter LED lights, one for either wall, and in those sets they are made up of two reels of 10 meters. So effectively I can go two separate ways on each wall. So I'm going to get those out, start to get them fitted in place and stuck down, and let's see how it looks. Now before I put all of these in place, I do just want to quickly talk about the LED strip lights. Now there are tons of these available on Amazon, eBay, etc. But do pay attention. Now the first set that I originally brought was 30 meters long, and I thought, wow, that is massive. You normally don't get them 30 meters long. But when they arrived, what I actually noticed was the LEDs was really spaced out along the strip. So yes, they were 30 meters long, but actually they would end up looking quite dim because of how far spaced out the LEDs are. Whereas we can see here, these are much closer together, I don't know, maybe every 4 to 5 centimeters. So these should give off a much better light, or a much brighter light, I should say. And ultimately the downside is they come in two separate reels as opposed to one. So it is a bit of a trade-off, but I want the lights to be as bright as possible. So there's meant to be a segment right here talking about the LED lights in a little bit more detail, and for whatever reason it didn't record, certainly not user error. So I'm quickly going to try and recap how they work. There is usually a little transformer plug. These usually run relatively low voltage. I think the highest one I've seen is about 36 volts. So generally speaking, they are pretty safe to use. They will connect to a little transformer box, and ultimately this box is just the control unit for it. Depending on how you're running it, some of them come with little remotes like this to turn them on and off and change the colours. Others may connect via Bluetooth on your phone, for example, if you want to sync it up with music to change the colours and flashing. Then from there we will go into the LED light strip. Most of the ones I've used are always sticky back, so you can just peel them off and stick them wherever you want. However, you can also buy little adhesion pads, so if you don't want to stick the whole thing down, you can just pin it in certain places. Now the length of the light as well, these really do vary from like 5 meters up to 20-30 meters, and usually they can be cut down. So for example, if you only needed 18 meters and you bought a 20-meter strip, you can typically cut the last 2 meters off with a pair of scissors, and the rest of the lights should still work. Now in terms of waterproof, some are advertised as waterproof, but the majority are not. However, they are still safe for things like sheds, workshop, garages. There is a degree of IP protection to them because of the way they are made. I don't know what the exact rating is, and it may vary between them, but ultimately they are generally safe to put in places. You can touch them, they don't really get warm. So it's one of the reasons I use them. You'll see them in here, my other workshop, at my desk when I'm doing like carve code tutorials. I do like having them. They just add a little bit of light. So nearly there, that's one half of the wall done. It all works. I can change through different colours. Yeah, let's move on, get the second half done. And with everything connected, we are done. I still need to sort out the way the studio lighting is going to work in here, because obviously I'm looking pretty dark at the moment. So still some work to do. And obviously I want to get things on the wall as well, just to bring them to life even more. But yeah, this is the achievements of today's video. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, obviously subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching, and final thanks as always goes to my patrons. Hopefully I'm feeling a bit more inspired to get some filming in here done now, and I'll see you all on the next episode.